a suggestion that those 300 odd outlets could be tripled if privatization occurs.
Well, that's one of the suggestions, and I think that was one of the plans. And you know, I think of the ramifications if you were to basically triple the number of hard liquor outlets in Virginia. I think particularly in our Virginia cities, I think that could cause a lot of problems.
The other issue that's been in the news recently is the Virginia retirement system.
Right.
And the governor's proposal to provide incentives, if you will, in terms of raises to state employees on the one hand, but on the other require them to contribute to the pension fund.
Right. You know, Woody, at the outset of this program, you made a remark that we have a surplus in Virginia. And the governor has told us we have a surplus, and the governor's my friend. I like to take everything he says at face value. But I will say the only reason we have that surplus is because last year we took out a loan from the VRS in the amount of $660 million. And we used that loan last year to balance our books, and we're in the process of paying that loan back. So I would say that the surplus we have right now is somewhat illusory and is based on that loan. Now let's go back to the overall solvency of VRS. You know, it's a defined benefit plan, and those plans are under a lot of public scrutiny these days. And I understand that, and scrutiny's good. But to me, I think if we move away from that plan, you know, we would have to make it worthwhile to our employees. And are we willing to step up and basically give them a 5 or 6% pay raise? Because they haven't had a pay raise since 2007. Are we willing to give them a substantial pay raise that's going to cost us probably, you know, $250 million in additional state money so they can offset the cost of having to pay for their own retirement? I think what may be a better medium way is kind of what we started last year, which is new employees as they come in after July 1, 2010, they're going to have to pay their share of their retirement. And again, that's not a perfect solution, and I understand there's going to be some negative pushback on that, but at least that way people go in with their eyes open, and people that are new employees, they understand these are the rules, and people that were our employees that have been working under the same set of rules, I wouldn't want to change the rules of the game for them. So that's kind of where I come down on it, Woody, but you know, hopefully with the stock market going north again, you know, that's going to help maybe solve this issue, frankly, without us. But.
And of course, we're not only talking about employees who are employed by state agencies, we're talking about local police, sheriff's offices,
Absolutely.
And teachers as well.
Absolutely, and a lot of people don't know that the VRS system also picks up a lot of local law enforcement, teachers, you name it, people that buy into the VRS. And of course, if we were to require them to pay their share, again, that would put the onus on local governments now to have to give them a pay raise, and Lord knows we put a lot of problems on local governments. So,
this is a redistricting year, and that's a politically charged process. Both the House and the Senate will come up with plans. The governor has appointed a bipartisan commission to make recommendations. How do you see all of this working?
Well, you know, this is the first time I've been through redistricting, and in a little ways, I was personally a redistricting baby. I lived in a jurisdiction, Fairfax City, that was split between 2 House districts, and then in 2001 it was consolidated into 1 House district, and I was a city councilman and thought I'd take a shot at running for delegate, which I did. So, you know, I was an outsider last time, and now this time I'm on the inside. And I will say that even though I'm an incumbent in the majority party, there's no real agenda, at least on my perspective. I mean, I want to have districts that are contiguous. I want to have districts that give people an opportunity to visit with their lawmaker. I don't want to have districts where you have someone that's represented by someone that lives 6 counties away, and for them to meet with their delegate or their senator, they have to drive 100 miles or, you know, cross a river or something like that. I mean, on balance, I'd like to avoid that situation and try and centralize the districts. It's going to be ticklish in Northern Virginia because we're densely populated, and we have about 10 senators located in Fairfax, Loudoun, or Prince William. And, you know, thankfully from my perspective, it's mostly Democrats. So, you know, we're going to have to somehow find a balance there, but at least for my district, you know, right now I represent Fairfax City, Vienna area, and I'd like to keep as much as my old district as possible. I mean, I've already knocked on a lot of doors. I'd hate to waste all that information. And so I guess I don't really have an ulterior agenda. I will say if someone has ideas on redistricting, I mean, if someone if you're a computer whiz and you've broken down a map and you've redrawn the congressional districts or the Senate districts, email them to me. I'm chap@fairfaxsenator.com. Send me a map. I'd love to take a look at it, and maybe we could even have coffee. And don't feel like you need to, protect anybody. I mean, you can draw me into some other seat. I don't care, but I'd be interested to see kind of what your thoughts are, and hopefully get some citizen participation.
And of course, this entire process is subject to pre-clearance by the Department of Justice.
It is. Yeah, we're a Voting Rights Act state because of the Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act. Virginia had been a state that had an abysmal record of voter participation, and obviously we were a state that had the legacy of segregation. So, because of that, we have to pre-clear our maps with the with the United States Department of Justice. So I think the timetable is going to be that we will go back in April, and at the time we have our veto session, we will also sit down and agree on maps, and then we will pass that as a piece of legislation probably in early to mid-April, and then it will go to the Obama administration and the Department of Justice, and they'll take a look, and hopefully they'll agree to it, and we'll know that by the summer.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
You had mentioned higher education earlier. I want to focus a little bit more on education, especially what's happening not only in our institutions of higher learning, but K through 12 and community colleges.
Okay.
Where do you see? You talked about pupil-teacher ratios, K through 12. Is there going to be another hit this year?
I think we'll probably be able to stabilize K through 12. Obviously our economy is starting to creep back a little bit. I think we're projecting about 3.9% economic growth. So in that respect, hopefully we're going to have the revenues to at least hold K-12 harmless. Of course, we got a lot of money from the feds, and that helped us out in the past couple years. Otherwise, we would have seen some just devastating cuts, and layoffs. I don't see anything radical happening in K-12 over the next couple of years. I think we're still absorbing all the budget cuts we made. I think probably the most significant K-12 piece of legislation I've seen thus far is the bill on mandatory physical education, which I supported very strongly, which we just passed in the state Senate, which requires every child, I believe grades K through 8, to have 150 minutes of exercise a week. And but that won't take effect, I believe, till FY 2013 or maybe even 2014. So other than that, I think we're probably going to stabilize on K-12.
Community colleges are still playing a critical role.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Some students can't afford the institutions of higher learning. More importantly, there are people unemployed who need retraining now.
Community colleges in the last 10 years have become so important, and they were before, but really now so. And going to college is different than, when you and I were growing up. You go to college, you go away for 4 years, and then you come back, and then you become a professional typically. And community colleges, I think, recognize that college education has changed, that now you have students that graduate from high school, oftentimes they're a first-time immigrant to the United States, or they're working, or they're in and out of the military, and so they don't have that perfect sort of 4-year trajectory of a 4-year college career. And oftentimes they have kids, or they're re-entering the workforce, and so community colleges recognize that college is now much more wide open to different people than it was in my era. And they fill that gap. People that are in the United States for the first time, or people that are working, you can go to community college, you can sign up for a set of classes. It's not going to break your back financially. You can live at home. You can keep a full-time job. And the community colleges also put people on a path where if they want to stay with their studies, they can then go on to a 4-year school.
Great. I promised you an opportunity to let your constituents know how to contact you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Seconds left. It's not your fault.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I apologize. I've been long-winded. I got a lot to talk about. If you want to contact me, fairfaxsenator.com. Fairfaxsenator.com is my website. chap@fairfaxsenator.com is my email. oxroadsouth.com is my assembly blog. Look it up. I try and post every day on assembly issues. And please let me know your opinion.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Woody.
Our guest today has been Senator Chap Petersen. Thank you for watching Cable Reports. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports and Cox Communications.